There you go. Okay, so I think we can get started. I'd like to welcome one and all to our discussion presentation today for the Interstate Bridge Replacement Program. If you don't know already, this project is a collaborative initiative between the states of Oregon and Washington. The program is focused solely on replacing the aging interstate bridge across the Columbia River and upgrading interchanges within a 5-mile corridor. So you'll often hear a lot about different packages that will be presented for this project. Some of those packages might not necessarily fall into your wheelhouse, some might. So I highly recommend that you do a little bit of deep diving to see a little bit more from each of those packages and find scopes of work that fall into your areas of interest. The program's primary goal is to create a modern multimodal corridor that enhances earthquake resilience, improves safety, and keeps both people and commerce moving efficiently into the future. We have one of the busiest commercial corridors in the region, clearly between California and Alaska. I-5 plays a major part in that. So this bridge plays a pivotal role in the regional success plan that we have looking forward. If you do not know, the IBR program achieved a major milestone recently with the publication of the Draft Supplemental Environmental Impact Statement on the 20th of September. That milestone marks the start of a 60-day comment period, which we will discuss further today. Leading this effort is Greg Johnson, who serves as the program administrator for the Interstate Bridge Replacement Program, jointly representing Washington State Department of Transportation, WashDOT, and ODOT, Oregon Department of Transportation. Greg brings a wealth of experience, having previously served as the State Highway Administrator for the Maryland Department of Transportation and as the Deputy Director for the Michigan Department of Transportation. His background includes significant contributions to major infrastructure projects, such as the Gordie Howe International Bridge between the United States and Canada. I highly recommend, if you haven't done so, look that project up. It is a massive project. Greg is a licensed professional engineer in Michigan and holds a Bachelor of Science in Civil Engineering from the University of Michigan, as well as a Master of Public Administration from Western Michigan University. So without further ado, I set the stage for Greg Johnson. Thank you, everyone.
All right. Thank you so much. It's my pleasure to be here before NAMC. One of the first phone calls I got or I received when I got to town about 4.5 years ago was from Nate McCoy. Number one, welcoming me and sharing with me some of the background and information regarding NAMC here in the Northwest. So it's been my pleasure to be associated and affiliated with some of the work that NAMC is doing, and we hope that we will be doing some complementary things that will have NAMC being a significant part of helping move this program forward, and a significant part of the equity for small businesses, for workforce on this project.
Hey, ladies.
Hello, how are you?
Good, and you?
So if we could have folks maybe go on mute. So But anyway, so let's pull up the slides. I'd like to walk you through slides, but I like to leave some time for a lot of robust question and answers that the team may have. So I'll walk you through where we are with the program and with our draft supplemental document being released. So let's go to the next slide, please. So this is our overall program schedule, one of the most important slides that we show to folks. And this shows where we are at in the program. That yellow arrow designates that we are still in the environmental process, but we've had some significant movement and met some significant milestones that are walking us through this project and getting us to that darker orange box to the right, which is the beginning of construction. But as you can see, we're doing a number of things all simultaneously. We have permitting going on. Our design work is going to be continuous throughout. We are working to finalize one last grant that's for the program through the Federal Transit Administration. We're doing community outreach and engagement that will be continuous throughout the project, but we're also meeting with the 10 federally recognized tribes in the area to make sure that their voices are reflected in what we're doing and that their needs are being met by this program. So let's go to the next slide. So first off, what is the draft supplemental environmental impact statement? So the shorthand is SEIS, supplemental environmental impact statement. So the reason this is a supplemental is because before, when the Columbia River Crossing project was underway, they actually got through to a record of decision, which is the last step in the federal process before the state of Washington declined to fund their portion of it. So we are doing a supplemental and recognizing what has changed in the last 10 years. But what the local partners have agreed to is what's called a modified locally preferred alternative that has a number of different items associated with it. So some of the things you'll hear about, the improvement of active transportation, that's the walk, bike, and roll, the extension of light rail from the Expo Center to Evergreen, 3 new light rail stations, 2 in Vancouver, 1 on Hayden Island, the replacement of the main span of the of the bridge over the main stem of the Columbia River, as well as the bridge that carries I-5 over North Portland Harbor. The improvement of 7 interchanges, and this is important because over 70% of the traffic that crosses the bridge gets on one of the 7 interchanges in this area. So that is that causes a lot of the safety and congestion issues that you see in this corridor. So when folks ask, why are you doing 7 interchanges? It's because that's part of what causes the problem in the corridor. We are only going to be repeating 3 through lanes through the corridor because we can't rip up a larger portion of Hayden Island or a larger portion of downtown Vancouver or Fort Vancouver. But we are also including what are called auxiliary lanes, and we'll talk more about that as a means of both safety and congestion relief. And finally, we're looking at variable rate tolling. And with that, we have also combined some design options such as bridge configuration, the C Street ramps in Vancouver, whether they will be included in a final design, the auxiliary lane question, as well as park and rides in downtown Vancouver, and a shift in the I-5 alignment to move it away from some of the cultural and archaeological resources at Fort Vancouver, but that also has impacts on downtown Vancouver. So those are the options that are being studied as part of the modified locally preferred alternative. and that's being compared to the no-build alternative. So whenever you do a federal process, a NEPA, National Environmental Policy Act process, ultimately you have to compare the preferred alternative to a no-build alternative, which means that you do nothing that is associated with the modified locally preferred alternative, and you compare what those results are. So you're going to see a lot of that, compare it to the no-build alternative in the upcoming slides. So let's go to the next slide, please. So that the modified locally preferred alternative that I just talked about, this is a graphical representation of all of those elements. You'll see that light rail taking off from Expo Center and terminating at Evergreen Street is represented on this slide.
I trust Ricky and Louise to always stand up for abortion access.
Can somebody go on mute, please? Thank you. Also, you'll see some of the other elements, but once again, this is just a graphical representation of the words on the previous slide. So let's go to the next slide, please. So this is a visualization that the program created to show you a fly-through of the program area and what some of these investments look like on the ground and in context with both Portland and Vancouver. So if we can click play on that. You can see the light rail elements on the left and the light on the right. Some of the complex interchange work that has to be done. This is Evergreen Street from the light rail terminal. Mill Plain Boulevard, Fourth Lane. Number of the local bridges that cross down this corridor will be replaced. And finally, we terminate the project just north of SR 500. So as we have had a couple of public hearings, this is one of the most popular stations that folks would stop and watch. So this is available on our website at interstatebridge.org, and you can see and run it over and over again to see how it fits into the context of the communities that are impacted by this program. So let's go to the next slide, please. So this is, I tell folks, this is our good news slide where we talk about program funding. One of the differences between this program and the Columbia River crossing, we have approximately $5.7 billion committed on this project. That large light blue box, you see 3.1 billion that we identify as potential federal funding. We have already have committed 2.1 billion out of the 3.1 billion moving forward. So the last billion is a grant from Federal Transit Administration that we are currently pursuing. You'll see the yellow and the green are the 1.1 billion that each state has brought to the table, and the dark blue is the potential toll funding. Now we have the ability and the approval of each state to toll the bridge, and we're looking to raise between 1.2 and 1.6 billion dollars through tolling. A lot of folks are asking the question, well, why tolling? And these projects, these mega projects, once you get to a certain size, neither state has the ability to fund the entirety of this, and the federal government doesn't have the wherewithal to fund all of this as well, with some of the pressures they have on the funding across the country. So tolling has been used as a tool for large projects like this to fill in that gap. So right now, we have an estimate that ranges between 5 and 7.5 billion for the overall cost, but that was done in 2022. We will be redoing an estimate in mid to late summer of 2025 to update the cost, because we've seen a great deal of inflation and escalation in the construction world. So that will give us our new number. But this is, once again, 5.7 out of 6.8 billion is committed. So we're going to get something built with that $5.7 billion. So let's go to the next slide, please. So this draft supplemental document that we're going to do a deeper dive in looked at 3 technical areas to be evaluated. Transportation, which looks at the highway traffic as well as air quality, the aviation traffic, river navigation, greenhouse gas emissions. All of those things are evaluated under the transportation technical area. We also look at community, the impacts on community. What are the cultural resources that will be impacted? What are the economic issues that we will find? How many businesses will be impacted? How many residences will be impacted by this project? And under that last major technical area, the environment, we look at climate change. We look at the ecosystems that will be impacted by this project, whether they are land or water. We also look at the wetlands and the waters of the state, as well as water quality and hydrology impacts that this program will have. So let's go to the next slide. So this is just a summary of what the program found, and once again, it's compared to a no-build alternative versus a modified locally preferred alternative. So, and our threshold year is 2045 to project out of what these impacts and improvements will be. So we look to, in 2045, to reduce crashes if this modified locally preferred alternative is implemented, better accommodating the number of people moving through the corridor while actually reducing the number of vehicle miles traveled versus a no-build alternative. Improving access to public transit. Currently, the only thing we have is Express Bus, so we will be continuing to fund Express Bus and actually putting them on the shoulder of the roadway throughout our program area, but also looking at that extension of light rail from Expo Center to Evergreen. The provision of safer and more accessible crossings for people who walk, bike, and roll. If you've ever rode across this bridge or walked across it, it is a very appealing trip. And we're looking to make that a more appealing trip to get some of the folks who could or would rather walk, bike, or roll to get them out of those single occupancy vehicle trips. And finally, one of the things that the program will do is decrease travel times and reduce the number of hours of congestion currently experienced at the bridge. So let's go to the next slide. And the climate change issue, we find that there are benefits. So once again, there's going to be a lessening of greenhouse gas production in background because of the fleet changes that we are seeing with trends towards increasing numbers of electric vehicles on the roadway. But also, our program is going to be reducing vehicle miles traveled by offering alternatives of how to cross through through this corridor. So once again, this is in a no-build scenario, we would expect to see over 14 million, I think that is metric tons of greenhouse gas emitted. And under the modified locally preferred alternative, that number actually drops. So what we are saying is because we are offering cleaner alternatives of how to travel through the corridor, we will be having a cleaner and greener project that will have lessened greenhouse gas emissions. So once again, we're also looking at climate resiliency. Everyone is aware of some of the heat domes that we have had over the last couple of years, some of the intense storms that blow in. So we want to make sure that this corridor is resilient towards those type of climate change issues, that light rail still can run even if the temperatures exceed 110 degrees. Buses can still get through and across the corridor, even with some of these changes that we may see in the climate. So next slide, please. So part of the benefits to this is in the economic arena. So benefits to economic activities, you will see with improved freight mobility, currently $132 million of goods cross that bridge every day. So if we can make that more efficient by limiting the hours of congestion and creating safer conditions for freight movements through the corridor, that's going to make freight movements that much more efficient. So also, there is improved access to economic opportunities for all demographics due to lessened congestion and lessened travel times in the corridor. There are some negative impacts because we will be impacting approximately 33 businesses, 39 residential units. We will be seeing 616 jobs impacted by these businesses that will be displaced. That doesn't mean that these jobs are going away for good. We present the worst case scenario that if folks would just pack up and take the jobs elsewhere out of either of these two states, or that they would just close their business down altogether. So we anticipate that some folks are going to do that, but we also anticipate that others are going to just relocate their business within this corridor and within these two states. One of the big benefits at the bottom of the slide is for every $1 billion spent on construction, we will be creating over 5,500 direct jobs related to the construction and over or almost 11,000 indirect jobs. Those are supplier jobs. Those are restaurant jobs, jobs that folks will will be undertaking, such as daycare jobs, to support the workforce that will be working on the bridge. So this is a huge number and a huge shot in the arm to the local economy. So let's go to the next slide, please. So how do you get to our document? So we have the document physically available, and we adhere to ADA standards. One of the things we did to make the document more user-friendly is we have an online search function. If you go to the draft supplemental document and you type in a keyword, you can find wherever that word occurs in the document. We also have an executive summary of the document, and that is interpreted into multiple languages for folks who don't have English as their primary language. If you want to see the draft document electronically, you can go to our website at interstatebridge.org /draft SEIS. We have hard copies in our office in Vancouver, one at Vancouver City Hall, one at the Community Library in Vancouver, as well as the Charles Jordan Community Center in Portland and in the Portland building downtown. So we tried to get this document as widespread as possible for folks who physically want to see it. If folks come to our office, we also have a tablet available where folks can electronically look at the document as well as the physical hard copy. So let's go to the next slide. So how do you comment? The first thing I tell folks, if you get on social media and you're ragging on the project, that is not an official comment. To make a comment that will be a part of the public record, you can submit a web-based form. You can email a comment to us at our email address. You can send a comment via regular mail to our office at 500 Broadway in Vancouver. You can call our office and leave a verbal comment, and we will transcribe that and make that a part of the record. Or you can comment. We have one last opportunity coming up for virtual public hearings. We've had the 2 in-person public hearings, but we have a virtual public hearing coming up the 30th, which is that today? Yeah, that's today, this afternoon. We'll be having that last virtual public hearing that starts at 5:30 or 6 o'clock, but you can go to our website and find out the details. So the public hearings in person have been held. We had court reporters there. We had approximately 200 folks show up and walk through the exhibits of the open house. And we had a number of folks comment at or to the court reporters who were there staffing the meeting as part of the public comment portion. But the last virtual public hearing is today at 6 p.m. And you can go to our website and find out how to join that meeting and make your public comment for the record. So let's go to the next slide, please. So what's next for the program? After hitting this major milestone, we're going to take all these responses. And so far, we've heard from 1,000 people making comments on the program. We expect a flurry of more comments coming before that November 18th closing date. So you have approximately 19 or 20 days to comment before that public comment period closes. We will be publishing all of the comments and our answers to those comments as part of the final supplemental environmental impact statement. So those public comments will be used to update the technical work that we do on this program, design options, as well as informing future design. So we will be hopefully, if everything stays on schedule, and so far we are on schedule, we will be publishing that final supplemental environmental impact statement as well as an amended record of decision. Because as I said before, the previous program that we are building on reached a record of decision. So this will be an amended record of decision, which is the last step in the federal process before you can begin construction. And once again, we're hoping to reach those milestones in mid to late 2025, and finally have a shovel in the ground as early as late 2025, early 2026. So you can see things are moving forward. We have a number of details that have to be worked out. One of the things that we have been talking to NAMC about is the use of DBEs in small businesses. Also, the use of public or project labor agreements on certain contracts associated with IBR. So those are things that are still in the works, but that are being discussed. But I think, and let's go to the next slide. I think that's my last slide.
Nope, we added a few more slides here to hit a couple other things, Greg. So,
all right, excellent. Well,
this is the cover of some of the NAMC specific interest points.
Excellent. So the program is committed to equity and to DBE and small business participation. We are the only program, only mega program that I'm aware of that we have both a principal climate officer and a principal equity officer that helps in the decision-making, in the processes that our program goes through, as well as outcomes. We also have an equity advisory group that created a equity framework that speaks to the commitment for DBE and small business participation, as well as workforce participation and who gets jobs associated with this program. So we will be looking for best practices. Once again, we have a running conversation with folks from NAMC, from OWAMI, PDBG, the Tabor 100 up in Washington, and a few other groups that are focused and concerned about DBE as well as small business participation. So we've been talking about strategies of how to capacity build and make sure that firms are supported as they come onto the project. So we have an equity objective that speaks to this, as well as we have both states' commitments to making sure that we have a robust presence of DBE in small businesses. So let's go to the next slide, please. So under workforce development, we commissioned a study with some of the workforce agencies on both sides of the river to understand what are going to be the landscape out in the future for workers. And we know that there will be a gap in what's needed and what's going to be available. So we've already started the outreach. We're going to be trying to create some workforce grants for groups like NAMC and others to go out and start filling the pipeline of folks who can work on this project, reaching into the communities, zip codes with certain population characteristics, certain income characteristics that we want to focus on. So once again, these are things that the program is committed to. We've created an alliance with the Small Business Administration to make sure, once again, we're getting folks ready to participate on this program. We're going to be creating package sizes that will address where we can have DBEs and small businesses seeing themselves as prime contractors on this. All of the work will not be typical DOT low bid. We will have some quality-based selection criteria for a lot of these different packages. So This is going to be a very thoughtful undertaking of how do you get folks to participate on programs who traditionally have not participated on projects like this. So let's go to the next slide. So this is a overall view of the packages that could be associated with this and how they are sequenced. So that light blue that crosses the main stem of the Columbia River, that's the new bridge. And that's one of the earliest requests for proposals that will be out. We're hoping sometime around this time next year that as soon as we get the record of decision, that RFP will be out on the street. But we need to have folks teaming up now. So we are going to be hosting a number of different events. We're going to try and get a draft request for proposals out there for folks to look at and start teaming. But the light blue is going to be the first, then that complicated interchange in downtown Vancouver, which includes SR 14. So that package is going to be the second package that goes, and that has just a tremendous amount of road and bridge work associated with it. There'll be some smaller packages that will go earlier on to enable all of this work. So some of that you see in the darker yellow. Evergreen Street is another package that we want to make a smaller package. So once again, folks can see themselves working some of these projects. So you can see that we have approximately 28 different packages identified, and those will probably get broken down even further to create those opportunities for smaller local businesses to participate. So let's go to the next slide.
And this is your last slide, Greg.
Excellent. So once again, we put these packages together, and they are draft. They are not final, but the considerations that we had was to look at the cost to make sure that these packages aren't super large. Once again, you'll see some programs across the country let one big contract. We went in a different way to break these up into different pieces. Now that creates some challenges for us, but we think it's the right way to move forward to gather more DBE participation, but also looking at the sequencing of how this fits in, the constructability and the availability of dollars that we have that sometimes don't fall necessarily neatly within how the packages are set up. But once again, all of this is subject to change as we continue to get feedback from folks like NAMC and others. But if you want to register your business, you can go through our vendor portal. You can scan this QR code and make sure that you get our newsletter and information moving forward. When we have events, you will be on our mailing list. And once again, if you include your NAICS codes, we can make more specific outreach to you as things go forward. So with that being our last slide, we have approximately 15 minutes for QA. So we can pull this.
We had a few questions come up in the chat.
Okay.
Jason was asking about the mention of tolling on the bridge. So the question is, will tolling push people to the 205 bridge?
So we have done the analysis, and we do see about a 3% diversion rate for freight vehicles, and I assume a similar diversion rate for vehicles. But one of the issues with folks diverting over to 205 is already oversubscribed. They have congestion that rivals the congestion on I-5. I-5 is the shortest, most direct route. So folks who are concerned about time and saving time will stay in the corridor. So, and also by giving folks different alternatives of how to cross, we're hoping to divert folks into light rail, into bike and ped, and that way that frees up some of the hours of congestion that motor vehicles would experience. But yeah, we do recognize there will be some diversion, but not a major amount.
Thanks, Greg. Next question. You mentioned that with the LPA, CO2 levels will drop, right? So based on looking at the slide depicted a modest drop, but not a significant drop. Could you say more about that impact?
So one of the things that I didn't mention, that I think is 11 million metric tons of greenhouse gas that, and it drops slightly, but that is not just the I-5 corridor. That's a sub-region that goes from I-205, I-5 split in northern Vancouver, all the way down to downtown Portland. So that's not just the program area. We are only a small amount of that, but we do show us having a positive impact on that sub area, that we will be moving approximately 15,000 future trips from single occupancy vehicle trips to light rail. And we'll be moving another 1,200 folks increase on bike and ped crossings from the current 400 that cross now. So we think we are doing some good. Is it a perfect solution? No, it is not. But we are a 5-mile corridor in a network of thousands of lane miles of roadway in this region that we can impact.
Okay, I had one question that actually is another question from Mr. Hurdle. Looking at the question, the topic of DBE participation, his firm is interested in introducing themselves to support your efforts. However, the project team representatives shared they will connect them with the principal equity officer, and that has not materialized yet. Do you have any suggestions on who to connect to?
I'll answer that. I am here. I'll put my email in the chat box here, so we'll make sure we get connected with you.
Perfect.
And we also have office hours that folks can sign up for. And if they sign up for them, we'll get the right people. If you tell us what you're interested in discussing, if you're interested in doing design work, construction work, or professional services, let us know, and we will sign up for the office hours. We'll get the right folks there to hear you out and give you guidance on how to move forward.
So I got a question here by text. Looking at the collaborations between the states of Oregon and Washington, and the question states, how are cross-state collaborations between Oregon and Washington being managed to align on environmental priorities and funding responsibilities?
It's a great question. It's the bane of my existence because I have to help. I have 10 partners, 5 from each side of the river. And we have to coordinate and make sure that the dollars and everything is being done in a very even manner. So some of the concerns about how we are handling the environmental pieces of this, we sit and we talk to those partners and make sure we have alignment before we move forward. So currently all of the partners, and they include both DOTs both the City of Portland, City of Vancouver, both the Port of Portland, Port of Vancouver, both transit agencies, TriMet and C-Tran, as well as the metropolitan planning organizations on each side of the river. So those are the 10 agencies that make up basically the board of directors for this program. So we meet with them. We just met with them earlier this month to make sure that everything is still aligned and that we are moving it forward in a direction that satisfies all of the needs of those 10 partners.
Perfect.
Kevin, ask that bonding question because that's a
Yep.
good.
Yep. So looking at the topic of bonding, bonding remains a significant challenge for DBEs. So the question states, are there any new strategies to address the issue of those challenges? And are there ways that have there been any efforts made to help DBEs bonding ready for bid packages?
So we know that there are a number of resources that are looking at this issue of bonding and financial capacity of DBEs. So once again, we're partnering with the Small Business Administration. We're partnering with the Federal Office of Small Business. It's OSDBU. I can't think of what the acronym means, but once again, they are dealing with these issues on a regular basis. So we're trying to create a network of entities and resources where folks can go to, have the conversations, and have things tailored to meet their specific needs. But we're making sure that we are trying to gather all of the needs of the DBE community. If it's training, if it's back office help, if it's plan reading, trying to get all of those things ready and identify the resources that currently provided. And if there's more resources that are necessary, IBR will help fund those resources for folks to participate in and be ready to be a good teammate or a good sub or a good prime on some of these packages.
Perfect. Thank you, Greg. I see 2 more questions that just came in. Are you looking into a parking structure for the light rail station? It looks like we're adding a line that is big and entrance and exits to the freeway. So the question is just looking at multimodal transportation.
Yeah, so we are looking at some park and rides in the downtown Vancouver area. One of the tricky issues is that park and rides are falling out of favor in urban areas. We're looking at it. Can it help drive ridership on the light rail line and connectivity with C-Trans bus rapid transit? So all of those things are being looked at. We are not 100% sure that we will be building park and rides, but that question is still on the table and being examined.
Okay. So there's a second question, which looks at another big area of concern. So question states, the biggest area of concern for small open shop contractors is the PLA. Now, you mentioned earlier that there will be some variations in the package or packages. Could you give us a little bit more insight? And also, will there be exemptions for certified firms?
So great question. So right now we're putting together our team infrastructure that's going to be doing a deep dive on the project labor agreement issue. Right now, what we have heard from both DOTs is they anticipate that we will have some contracts on this project covered by project labor agreements. And the thought behind it is because labor harmony some of the more risk laden contracts that if there were to be a labor action, could throw off the entire project and cause a cascade effect. Those are the ones that we want to make sure we have labor harmony on. And one of the ways to do that is through project labor agreements. But we are looking at how can we make sure that these project labor agreements also fit the needs of DBEs and small businesses. Our team headed by Espousal has been looking nationally at, okay, if we are to have project labor agreements, what are the project labor agreements that have been reached and to the satisfaction of small businesses around the country? So we have pulled some examples from Nevada, from the San Diego area, from Illinois. So all of those things are going to be put on the table. We're going to be doing a listening session with a number of different groups. So we will be doing a listening session with DBEs and small businesses in relationship to project labor agreements. We'll be doing a listening session with the AGC for prime contractors. And we'll also be doing a PLA discussion with labor. So those 3 listening sessions should be getting scheduled for probably sometime, I would say early next year, to once again get input and have folks tell us what you need to see. If there are going to be project labor agreements, what do you need to see in them to satisfy your needs as a small business or as a DBE?
And Greg, can I expand that question? If the folks controlling the slides can go back to the one slide where Greg showed the bridge going across the river that had the different colors and zones. Can we go to that real quick? Because I want to depict something you're saying, Greg, and that kind of gets to the question around harmony and disruption and specialized work. Because this is pretty important for folks to hear, and the folks kind of doing some of the cost estimating for this project have kind of shared some thoughts with me that kind of, not this one, there's another
Slide
one.
16.
Yeah, that had the yellow and the black and so hearing all the, case studies across the nation, NAMC has reviewed that, want NAMC members to hear that. And so we are putting together a white paper report on some of those findings. The findings, I can tell you already, lead towards exemption still. So you have one member already here saying that we're going to tally more. But to Greg's point earlier, the way I'm understanding it is the yellow on the Washington side, or the black on the Washington side, and then the yellow on the Oregon side is going to probably be where you see the biggest DBE concentrations of work opportunities. Would that be fair to say, Greg?
I would think so. You're probably going to see it spread in some of these other contracts. We're going to try and look at unbundling some of the work out of these bigger contracts. So, and even some of the smaller opportunities, such as when we demolish the old bridge, we see that as a potential area where DBEs can thrive, because there'll be a lot of trucking, a lot of demolition type work. So that's those are some of the things that we're going to try and make sure that if they are covered under a project labor agreement, that they will have a robust language in there for DBEs as well as workforce concerns. One of the things we're also looking at using is TriMet has a workforce exhibit that they put in all of their contracts. We're looking to put that in a number of our contracts that speak to some of the equity issues, small business usage, as well as usage of a diverse workforce.
And I think why that's important, Greg, and again, I think what the devil will be in the details on those two concentrated efforts on both sides. The one that I think we will have to really look at and say we might have to support a project labor agreement would be the actual blue building of the bridge. Because that definitely will take specialized labor, steel in particular, and there isn't a non-union steel outfit that exists today. So to your point about harmony, Greg, I think that's one of those, if you will, concessions that we may have to consider. Unless there's non-union steel companies out there, that's a hard one to not see unionization on that trade work. I do want to make sure that we talk about offline with members and come back to the table with Greg, all that other ancillary work that is really the bulk of the work of building this project the next 10 years. You know, what are members looking for out of that excavation, demo, as Greg said, that work that you may be non-union on, so that we can make sure that the conversation is balanced and there's parity around non-union, union workforce on those adjacent, I guess, scopes building the bridge. So I just wanted to kind of point that, Greg, because I know that's where you can get real crafty with specialized packages, you know, debundling, as you said, and longer duration work, which is not gonna taint who's building that work.
Yep.
Thank you for sharing that. And again, we have this material for everybody. I don't know if there's any other questions. We're at time, but I don't know if you have
Just one more quick
One more
question. So
question.
will any of these packages use owners' representatives?
Yes. So there will be opportunities both on the contractor side, but there will be other opportunities for the owner side. So we will be putting out some owner rep sub work that will be not going through a contractor, that will still be going through IBR and our team to be a part of how we deliver. So there'll be construction management, inspection, testing contracts coming out under the owner's side of this, as well as some design work that we will do in-house. We'll also be having design review contracts. So there'll be a lot of work both on the owner side as well as the contractor side of things.
Hey, Greg, really quick question. The question I asked on one part of that what I put on in the chat was, looks like you're adding a lane, which is really big, and the entrance and the exits from the different corridors and the bridge, are they double lanes? And look, I'm just looking at how that can help move traffic better. So it looked like you're adding a lane, and that you talked about some of the entrances and the exits.
Yeah, those additional lanes that you see are auxiliary lanes, and in some cases, on the Washington side, there are already 2 auxiliary lanes that exist between interchanges. So those will be repeated to help traffic flow in the area, and especially to get freight traffic up to speed or decelerating outside of the through lane so they can exit the freeway. So, but yeah, you will see a wider freeway. That irks a lot of folks. But once again, this is the interstate, and this is the only interstate on the West Coast connecting Mexico and Canada. So you do not want this to continue to be the bottleneck for freight movements in the corridor. But yeah, great observation. Great question, James. So anybody else? And once again, I know this hour went by quickly. We're more than happy to come back and sit with your team, with the NAMC members, and talk about this. But my request of you is to go to our website, get on, make comments, because generally all we hear from are folks who are negative towards projects, who get on and make comments. We need folks who want to see this project go forward, also commenting on it and understanding that this project can be transformational for small businesses and for the region in general. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Greg.
Yep.
Thank you, everyone, for
Greg.
attending today. Should you have any follow-up questions or thoughts, feel free to reach out to the NAMC team. We will do our part to help connect you to any of the necessary presentation party teams as well. So, let's keep this conversation going. As was mentioned, the time is tight. So let's get that information flowing, spread the word, get any people that that didn't attend today that might be interested in having a question or two to participate as well. And let's make sure that this conversation is amplified to the loudest volume that we can. Thank you very much, and take good care.
Excellent. Thanks, NAMC.
All right. See you all later. See you at the general meeting next week.
All right. Bye.